In my free calligraphy course, whenever I recommend to people that they get the Tombow dual brush pens to get started, I always get asked the question, what about this clear blender pen? Because this often comes in the beginner packs, and what's it for? Do I need it? How do I use it? All the things. Or for the people who don't buy a beginner set and they're just looking at all the different pens on the shelf, they wonder, do I need to grab this one too? So let's answer that once and for all. I'm gonna give you a rundown on how this works and how to use it, and I'm gonna give you my opinion on whether you should buy it or not. So first things first, one of the main reasons that I like Tombow dual brush pens is because they're fun. They come in so many different colors and they're water-based, which means they're really, really versatile to use. They don't bleed through paper. They can be mixed with water to be used kind of like watercolor paint and all sorts of fun techniques. So given that there are so many fun colors, one of the main things that people really like to do with them is to blend them, hence the blender pen. To demonstrate how that works, I'm gonna write out the word hot twice and show you how I would blend it to kind of look like it's on fire. I actually did this technique in a really old video years and years ago. I'm such a baby in this video, but I'm gonna show it to you a little more concisely now because I've evolved. Okay, so I'm gonna take my lightest color, which is my yellow, and I'm gonna write out the word hot in 2 lines so that we can compare them after. And I'm doing this on paper without guidelines, which if you're a student of mine, you know that I never recommend, but I'm just trying to do this quickly and on smooth paper. So I'm using marker paper here. And I'm gonna try to make these look as similar as possible so that we can compare them as directly as we can, just with and without a blender pen. Okay. So there we go, I have both of my words. And now I'm going to show you how I would blend it with a blender pen. So if I wanted to make this word look like it's on fire and I'm using these other colors, obviously fire colors, red and orange, I would put a little bit of red at the bottom. And basically I'm thinking that there's like an invisible line horizontally across that, and that's where my color is gonna go. So I'm just putting a little bit at the bottom. Then I'm gonna add a little bit of orange on top of that to another invisible line. Say the invisible line is about here, so I'm just adding orange on top of the yellow all the way up to that line. Okay, but you can see that it's like a pretty sharp stop where that orange meets the yellow. So now is where the blender pen comes in. So I'm gonna take my blender pen, make sure there's no other colors on it. You can see it comes off clear on my page. And I'm going to use it to blend that orange into the yellow. Do the same thing on this word. This letter, sorry. And you're basically just tracing your original lines with this blender pen. So you're picking up that orange and dragging it into the yellow. And I find sometimes it picks up a little too much, and I don't want to drag orange all the way up to the top because I want the top to be yellow. So then you take it off to the side and you just kind of scribble a bit until it goes back to clear. And then you can do it again. Just to blend in that top part, but so that it doesn't pick up too much color. And then get it basically blending all the way back to yellow at the top. And you can do the same thing too here at the bottom, like where the red meets the orange, but when the colors are darker, it's a less obvious shift anyway. So I'll blend them in just for the sake of it. But sometimes it's not even necessary because the colors just blend nicely together regardless. Okay, so then when we have color on our brush, we just come off to the side, color, color, color until it's back to clear. Okay, so that's what it looks like with a blender pen. Now I'm gonna show you why, in my opinion, that step is not really necessary. So let's do the exact same thing again. I'm gonna add my red at the bottom and then my orange. So I alluded to it in this one, but the red and the orange really already blend together nicely. But what I like to do is I just take the lighter color, the orange, and I just blend it in over those spots and kind of perfect where they meet. Again, you can't really tell between the red and the orange because these two colors are so similar. But you can see it where the orange meets the yellow, that they're kind of like, it's like a very specific stop. So now I take my yellow and I just dip it into that orange and start dragging it up towards the top, making it really kind of like jagged wherever I stop. Again, dip it into the orange, drag it up, and make it kind of jagged at the top wherever I lift up my pen. Here it's already pretty blended. And then again, and if you feel like you're picking up too much orange at any time, just come off to the side, make sure your marker is staying yellow. And you're just using the lighter color as the blender pen to pull the darker color up. And it softens those edges. Like you can see immediately those edges of my orange are gone, softened by the yellow. And you just keep doing that and kind of cleaning off your pen as you move up towards the top. And so now we're still yellow at the top. We've blended all the colors together. And these two look almost identical. I hope that translates on camera, but the only difference that I can spot immediately is that when I use the blender pen, it chews up the paper a little bit more because I'm really trying to like push the colors together. Whereas when I use just my colored markers, it pulls them nicely and it doesn't chew up the paper. The other thing I noticed with the blender pen is that it kind of tones down the color because you're taking a clear color and just mushing around the colors that are already there versus using your bright colors. It actually adds more pigment to the page and makes that a lot brighter. So hopefully that comes across on the camera. But this bottom one actually looks quite a bit more vibrant than the top one that I used the blender pen on. So that's technique number one, but there is another way to do this. Another way that people like to use the Tombow blender pen is with a plasticky surface. So Tombow actually makes a blending surface, but it's not necessary. You can also just use any plastic surface you have. This is just a palette. And you take two colors. So let's just use the orange or the red and the yellow for now. You take two colors, you put them down on your palette beside each other. Then you take your blender pen and you dip it in, mix them around, and you can make whatever color you want. So here, now those two colors have mixed together on my blender pen, and something that's really cool is that as you work with it, it gets lighter and lighter as you go because the color washes off the blender pen. So people like to use this for an ombre effect. If you wrote a really long word, you'd see it's darker at the start and it would get lighter as you go. However, what you could also do is take that same palette. I don't have a ton of room on here now, but I would put down the darker color, put down some red, take my lighter color. I just want to make sure this is really yellow. Okay. Take my lighter color, dip it in the red, and do the same thing. So here you can see it's the same kind of idea, except the blender pen made it all one color. Dipping your lighter pen into your darker pen actually makes it kind of fade in an ombre style from one color to the other, instead of from one color to invisible. So it's a different technique, but it also, again, the one that you use the two colors on instead of the colors and the blender ends up looking more vibrant. So for me, this is a preference for me. I adore the way it looks when you actually use the color instead of the blender. So that should demonstrate exactly how you can use it on this palette. But the cool thing about using the blender as opposed to two different colors is that you can make endless color mixtures with this. You can take your Tombow brush pens and find any two colors you want to mix together and fully mix them with your blender pen and have them mixed into that one color. Whereas this one is always going to have kind of a tinge of red and a tinge of yellow, if that makes sense. So same technique, two different outcomes basically, depending on which tools you use. And lastly, I want to show one other technique you can use to blend these pens together without a blender pen, and that's using water. So I have a tiny little paintbrush here, and I've just put a tiny little drop of water in my palette, and I'm going to do that same hot demonstration again. And I'm doing this pretty quick because I don't want you to be here forever, but you can be as precise with it as you want. I'm making this exceptionally messy, but you get the idea. Okay, so I alluded to the fact earlier in this video that Tombows are water-based. So you can add water to them and use them kind of as watercolor paint. So I'm just putting a tiny bit of water on this little brush of mine, and I'm going to use it to blend those colors up. It makes the lettering look like watercolor, but it also obviously very effectively blends when you add water to it. So if you're going to do this technique, I would do the water over the entire word because it does kind of change the look. It gives you like a little bit of a watercolor look there. And so you don't want to just do it on the top where you're blending, but you want to give that effect to the whole word. But as you can see, it really drags the color and effectively acts as a blender pen. But it's just a little bit of water on any tiny little brush you have. Again, this is getting messy. I'm going way too fast, but just to demonstrate the effectiveness of water on these. There you have it. So all of that to say, if you bought a pack with a blender pen, great. They're super fun. You can absolutely experiment with them. You can mix unlimited number of colors that you want to make fun blending effects, and you can absolutely experiment with it and have fun. But if you're shopping for a mix of different Tombow colors and you're wondering if you need to toss the blender into your mix, my answer would be no. I've actually hardly ever used it in my own work, so I would say no. But if you're seeing this and you're like, "Ooh, I actually really love the way that it looks when it mixes from clear to, or from color to clear," by all means, it could be really fun for your own artistic style. So I hope that's helpful. And by the way, if you are watching this because you're obsessed with brush pens and learning brush lettering and brush calligraphy, I have a full free course for you. So I'm going to link to it down below, but it basically runs you through everything you need to know about supplies and everything you need to know about calligraphy from the ground up, including printable, traceable workbooks and step-by-step videos. So I hope that's helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.